Have you ever wondered why so many people live in mediocrity even though everyone wants more? The truth is, most people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they choose comfort over growth. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly why people stay average and how you can break out of this trap. Most people value safety and predictability more than growth. Comfort feels good, but it can be a slow killer. You don't actually notice it until 10 years go by and nothing has changed in your life. But mediocrity isn't a sudden fall. It's a very, very slow, slippery slope. For me, it was slipping out of old habits. I was talking to one of my friends today and they had asked me how long I'd been going to the gym for. I'd said on and off for 2 years, and I really put an emphasis on the on and off. Because over those 2 years, I had fallen in and out of productive habits. I was going to the gym every day, and then I didn't go to the gym for 6 months. All of my progress erased over those 6 months, but I didn't actually see my progress decline until a few months later, and I didn't really notice it until I got back into the gym and I couldn't lift the same weight anymore, and I looked skinny again. And I just had it recently, back in like September to December of last year, before 2025, I had started to fall out of some old habits, and I wasn't reading, I wasn't meditating, and I wasn't working on my business. But I think one of the main points I want to cover here is the fact that even though it is a slippery slope, if you miss one day, it's not gonna tank your progress, and you shouldn't get discouraged by that. I had one experience recently in the new year. I was starting to build my habits back up, and I missed one day of going to the gym. The next day, I was like, oh, I didn't go to the gym that day, so I might as well not even go today. But I told myself to not to get discouraged, and I went to the gym anyway. And I felt 10 times better if I did rather than if I hadn't. But every time you scroll, every time you hit snooze, that's one step closer to being just an average person rather than someone who wants an extraordinary life. Because to have an extraordinary life, you need to be extraordinary. And that means taking the late nights. That means building a business or building a body, especially when you don't feel like it. That's where discipline comes in. The greatest minds in the world don't think about willpower. They don't just build their businesses when they have willpower. They build them when they have built up the discipline over months or even years of doing the same thing over and over, to where it's just automatic now, but they are so good at what they do that everything comes naturally, including money. The second reason why I see a lot of people fail and fall back into mediocrity is because they care way too much about what other people think of them. Making these videos, I probably look stupid to a very large portion of people. And I know that some people have thought I'm stupid, because the funniest story that I learned about the other day was at my old school that I went to. It's a high school, but I transferred out to another high school. They actually played one of my YouTube videos in, I think it was their math class, and they were basically making fun of it. And I heard about it from someone else that was in that class, and I just thought it was so funny, because when I first started making these videos, I would have cared so much about what those people were thinking about me, or I would have been absolutely devastated if I had heard that. When she told me about that, I thought it was probably the funniest thing that I've heard in a while, because the fact that they would even go on and even give me the time of day is really funny. And I think because I can move past that, that's when real growth starts to happen. And I've not wanted to make videos in the past. Like, even today, I was a little hesitant on making a video because life would be so much easier if I just didn't look at a camera and talk about all these things. But that's when sort of the universe is testing you. That's when you have to put in the work, because if you don't, then you're not going to get anything done. But if you push past the trials and tribulations, and you get past the ruts, and you get past not having the motivation to do it, that's when you will start to grow exponentially. And that's another piece of advice that I really want to give people. You have to put in the work when you don't feel like it. I know Hamza Ahmed has a quote that fits actually perfectly with this. He says, do the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it. And I think that really relates to just what the definition of discipline is. I think mediocre people focus on trying to look successful rather than trying to be successful. And MJ DeMarco really talks about this in his book, Millionaire Fastlane, that I'm currently reading. I'm about halfway through now, and I'm really liking it. Highly recommend to anyone. But he talks about how a lot of people, you see all these fancy cars and all these fancy bags, that like Louis Vuitton bags, they want to look successful rather than actually being successful and having the freedom to actually buy those things. Point 3 that I want to make here is that people lack urgency. I think a lot of people think that they have a lot more time than they actually do. There's no fire underneath their actions. There's no intent behind anything they're doing because their consequences to their inaction are an instant. And if you can't see something that's right in front of you and instant, then it's usually not in your mind at all. You have to give it your all 100% of the time. Because if you don't, then what are you even doing it for? I know that's a bit full on, but I think it's true for a lot. I just had a discussion with my parents about sort of what my future is going to be like, and I mentioned money. And I think a lot of people, especially my parents, have asked me, why do you want to get rich? Why do you want to get money? And I think this quote from The Millionaire Fastlane really describes why. He says, 1, money buys the freedom to watch your kids grow. 2, money buys the freedom to pursue your craziest dreams. 3, money buys freedom to make a difference in the world. 4, money buys the freedom to build and strengthen relationships. And 5, money buys the freedom to do what you love, removing financial validation from the equation. And I think that is perfect for what I want to do. I think money just really takes a financial strain off of everything. And I think it's really where, after all that, that's where you can thrive. And I think a sense of urgency is really key if you want to get that done early. I'm only 18, but at the same time, I am 18. I am a legal adult, and I think, if not now, when? And one day you're going to wish that you started 5 years ago. So why not make that day today? And why not start building your dreams today? Why not start building that business? Why not start trying to be the best version of yourself that you can be without the overlooming expectation of being perfect? I think that's a really, really good mindset to have. And point number 4 I want to make is people don't know what they want. People stay mediocre because they never get clarity. I think a good way to find clarity is to journal. I journal quite a bit, and I sort of think about things that happened in the day or thoughts that I may have throughout the day. And I sit and think about maybe what made me feel those things, or how I can pursue my dreams in a more aerodynamic fashion, or how I can build upon or chisel away at my purpose. And by chisel away, I was using an analogy in one of my other videos about an onion, and how each layer of the onion is a layer of your purpose. And once you complete a layer of your purpose, that layer of the onion sheds off. It's a good analogy for sort of getting to your core purpose in your life. And so I think journaling can really, really help with that. I think once you write something down on a piece of paper, not on Notion, not on Google Docs or anything like that, a pen and paper, I think if you really sit down for even 10, 15 minutes every day and just sit and write about either how your day went or thoughts you had throughout the day, I think it can really bring clarity to your life and your life direction. Because if you don't know what you want, how are you supposed to get to it in the future? So I really think some self-reflection would be good for everyone. MJ DeMarco talks about this in his book, but if you don't have a plan, then you're basically part of someone else's plan. If you have a corporate job and you're sitting at a desk every day, you're working for someone above you. And so I think that analogy is good, because if you yourself don't have a plan, then you're not focusing on yourself and you're putting your energy towards different things, and that can be other people, or that could be things that don't really matter. And so if you don't have a plan, then you're part of someone else's. And point number 5 I want to make is that people who are mediocre don't have discipline or systems. I don't think motivation is really the problem in people getting or achieving what they want. I think motivation tapers out really, really quickly, and you get a spur of motivation. But after maybe a day or two, you lose all motivation for that, or your motivation starts to wane off. And I think the problem isn't with the motivation, it's the fact that you can't discipline yourself enough to make the action that you want to do consistent. Because consistency in what you're doing beats talent every single time. People rely so much on motivation and not the habits that, when built consistently and sustainably, are the thing that brings you from point A to point B, that brings you from $0 to $10,000 a month. Discipline is you doing the action that you said you would do, even though the motivation was gone a long time ago. So of course, any gym goer knows this, but there's days where you're like, I don't want to go to the gym at all. I can just stay here in bed. I can just eat whatever I want, and I don't have to go to the gym. But if you do go to the gym and you do get a good workout in and you eat healthily, I think 99% of people will say that they don't regret going to the gym. And if they had stayed home and eaten a bag of chips, I think they would have felt 10 times worse than if they had just gotten up off their butt and pushed through the wall of not being motivated for 10 minutes on the way drive to the gym and gotten past the first set and getting a workout in. And really the key with building discipline, especially if you don't have a lot of habits in place already, is starting off slow. I know a lot of people who have gotten out of habits or don't have any habits at all. They start by, they go to the gym, they read, they meditate, they take a cold shower every single day. That motivation and that much volume in all the habits that you're doing wanes out so quickly, and you get so burnt out so quickly. But if you introduce one habit at a time, you start journaling one day, and a few days later you start going to the gym 3 times a week. Then after that you take a cold shower once a week. Then you slowly build up those habits, and then slowly introducing more habits. It's way easier for your whole system to digest, and it's way easier for you to sustain those habits rather than just going all at once and getting super burnt out. But being mediocre isn't some curse that the universe has put upon some people. They chose to do it. And so it's your choice now to choose to do the hard things, especially when you don't feel like it, and to choose to go to the gym when you don't feel like it, to choose to journal when you don't feel like it, to choose to think about your future family, your future wife or kids, or whatever you want to think about. But think, would they be proud of me if they saw me in my current situation? Or would they be happy with me if later down the road this was me and they were looking at me, and your children look at you and they don't really think that you're an amazing dad, and they look at you and you're pretty mediocre and you're going to your 9 to 5 and you're never with them. You don't want to be like that. So it's your choice. Build up the habits, build up a business, do what you really want to do, and do the hard work when you don't feel like doing it. Then you're going to be set. And if you do that at a younger age, you will get 10 times more of what you want than the average mediocre person. If you found this video helpful at all, consider subscribing and liking and looking at my other videos where I post a lot of other videos like this. And I try to post once a week or twice a week, and I might start posting even more. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.